Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my patch note rundown for 10.12 patch notes, aka the mid-set update. In this patch note rundown, we'll be covering briefly on the new champions and really talking about the changes between the mid-set to this current patch and what I like so much about it. A TLDR is that I think there's more usable items, more usable champions, which typically makes the game feel better. When you're playing TFT, like an ideal game of TFT is a lot of the units are viable, so you have multiple different decision-making options in every stage of the game. So your middle, your early, and your late game have a lot of decision-making processes. In the current set, there's a couple of units that aren't very strong that you always pass over. Stuff like Nico, maybe Annie, any of the mech units are really, really weak, which I think a lot of those problems get fixed in the new set, as well as some item reworks. But let's not talk about that right now. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the stars. We'll keep this intro short and sweet because there's a lot to cover in this patch. As part of the Galaxy's mid-set update, this patch contains large gameplay changes, a soft rank reset, and a new season pass. You'll be playing TFT in the same Galaxy set you know and love, but with some pretty significant updates to shake things up. Before you get overwhelmed, remember, this is why a smart captain like you reads the patch notes. Yeah, that's me. Thanks, man. Okay. Quickly, all the new stuff. Cool. New little legends. Okay, so this is probably the most important part of the rundown. High tier little legends, these two. The Meeps and the Pony, really good spammable options for when you're trying to inspire dominance on your enemy. This one I don't really like that much, personally speaking. Alright. Coming over, there's a new Galaxy's Pass, new emotes, there's the same thing as before. Okay. New traits. Astro, Battlecast, Paragon. All you have to say about this is Battlecast replaces Celestial as like the top end 6/8 cost major synergy. I think that's good. Generally speaking, I don't like Celestial. It's a defensive utility synergy, and I think that the game needed a more offensive synergy in place of that regardless. So I like that a lot. I think Battlecast, however, is a little bit boring. Like just healing for a little bit more or dealing a little bit more damage doesn't seem too inspiring as a trait. I say this, of course, while reading stuff like reduce their max mana by 30 and basic attacks are converted to true damage. This being a little bit more cool, right? But the one thing about Battlecast that's really important to know is Battlecast is this set's Predator. So people didn't play set 2. Predator was and is one of the only synergies to ever have worked with items. So when it says 10 instances of damage, upon taking or dealing 10 instances of damage, heal this if below half health, or deal this to nearest enemy if above half. Instances of damage can be red buff ticks, Morello ticks, static shift procs. It can be blaster procs. It can be like pretty much any item proc in the game. Giant Slayer true damage proc. And so this is a synergy that is pretty underwhelming by itself, but can ramp up quite tremendously depending on the items that you have. Anyways, let's keep going. The new champions, Nihilus, Bard, Gnar, Teemo, Illaoi, and Nocturne, Kog'Maw, Cassio, Victor, Urgot, Janna, Riven, Vayne, Zed. I don't want to focus too much on these individually. Just in general, the stuff that these things add. They added a new Vanguard and a new Brawler. This makes getting 4 Vanguard and 4 Brawler a lot easier. Something that you can look and actively get in the mid game as opposed to only being like a very late game option for you. So that's something for you to keep in mind when you're looking to build comps like these. Bard is probably the most unique champion that he gets Meeps that can like essentially ramp your experience really fast. That's what his ulti does, just gives you XP. Has WoW cases to either be useless or completely busted. I think at the moment it's kind of toward the completely useless side, whichever one I pointed at. But can be probably fringe case very broken. They added 4 snipers, something to keep in mind. Sniper is one of the best damage buffs on live. And one of the things that made it really, really strong was the combination of Deathblade plus Hurricane, because Hurricane got extra damage based on your Sniper bonus. For some reason, Sniper also interacted with items that way. No longer does that anymore. So they had to nerf that, and they introduced 4 different snipers, which is really interesting. There's a damage mystic in the game now, the Cassiopeia, and which also is a pseudo counter to shielding. Shielding counters are very rare, both in this game and in League of Legends, so it's something to keep in mind if you're playing against a lot of protector comps, for instance, or anything that can give shields to other things. And that's pretty much... Oh, and they added another cybernetic vein, so getting 6 cybers is a lot easier in the game. Not something where you have to fish for the random echo out. It's something that you can consistently hit pretty much every game, regardless or not if you hit echo. Alright, they removed Void, Valkyries, bunch of stuff. The hardest thing for me to deal with and the stuff they removed is Kale and Kassadin. Kale was kind of the linchpin to make blades work. And if you ever went 6 blades, you need a backline blade that deals a lot of damage, especially AoE damage, to be able to kind of make it effective. Them like 6 blades losing Kale means you're pretty much in a terrible spot if you ever want to go 6 blades or more, unless you can blade spat something that does AoE, similar to I don't know, Jinx, very very common unit to be able to blade, or something else. Additionally, Kassadin removing Kassadin, you lose a mid-game mana reaver, which is really really important for comps like Space Jam, who wants to run like 4 Celestial plus Darius Jace. Any comp that runs Space Pirates is gonna really feel the pain, because removing 1 mana reaver in a game kind of makes that trait really really difficult to get, because you're really only getting it off of really a Thresh and then the 2-star Darius. So those are probably the biggest things to hit. I didn't really like Galaxy, which I didn't really like it that much. It was okay. I felt like it was all right. It was not that bad, but they're removing the Galaxy to add another one. Okay, cool. What else? Ranked, your soft reset down for 1 tier. Currently in Gold 2, you'll be in Silver 2. If you're very good at this game, haha, thanks man. Currently placed in Master above, you'll be reset to Diamond 4. Cool. You get 5 provisional matches after reset, meaning you will not lose any LP for sub top 4 placements in your first 5 ranked games of the set. You'll probably climb with 100 LP or something, huge LP gains in the first 5 placement matches. Take these very seriously, actually, because you can get a lot of points in provisional matches. Like, you will skyrocket with these. So yeah, high recommendation to take these fairly seriously. If you place a gold or higher, you'll receive an appropriate emote and a little legend in both stages. Okay, Victoria's little legend rank rewards from the rise, and oh shit, we're getting our rank rewards placed in my inventory soon. What does this mean? I've been waiting for these for like forever. Okay, you know what? It's okay. Let's keep moving on. We'll be not adding any galaxies in the patch. Starting with 10-13, we plan to add 1 galaxy, remove 1 galaxy every patch. Okay, fair enough. Normal games are 20%, every other galaxy would be 10%. Fair. Number of tier 3 champs in the pool go from 16 to 18. This makes it more likely for you to hit multiple 3-cost carries. I think in the first iteration of the set, before the mid-set update, there weren't very many 3-cost carries that were good. Aside from Shaco, and like frontline carries like Jace and Vi, stuff like Yi saw very little amounts of play. In between like maybe one comp that they did a really really good job in. For the most part, there weren't very many backline carries, but now there are a lot more. Between what was it? They added Vayne. They added, there's one more, right? Cassio as another carry. Helps out quite a bit, especially because they're different types of carries in my opinion. One works really well at being able to find like physical damage long range. The other one is magic damage dot damage, which is different, very different. Continuing on, this is probably the biggest change of this set. I talked about this when I first saw the mid-set update patch notes, but what this means is essentially everything that you sell will sell for their full gold value -1. So for instance, a 3-star tier 1 champion sell value goes from 5 to 9. A 2-star tier 3 champion goes from 5 to 8. Essentially, you don't need to think too hard about this. It means that when you're looking to build units and pivoting from one comp to another, it's a lot easier on you because it doesn't punish you from pivoting from one comp to another. Currently, this is a good example. In the current state of the game, if you're playing, let's say you're playing mech, and both of you call me mech at the start of the game, and someone else doesn't respect your call and also goes mech as well. Currently, if you both spend about 10 or 15 gold rolling at 6 for your units, you pivoting out of mech from that position only hurts yourself. It hurts yourself more than it hurts the person staying in it, because the cost of pivoting out is so expensive selling your units to make a whole new comp. What you should be doing now, and if you weren't doing before, is you can hold a lot more units, especially if you're winning. If it doesn't affect your econ that much, you can hold a lot of the different 4 and 3 cost carries that are good and pivot from one to the other. It should feel a lot worse. Of course, this has a negative problem where it's like, if you're low rolling, you can't hold any of these units. So you're probably going to be not as flexible as someone at the very top, but I still think overall good change for the game. And it's something that I'm really interested to see how it works out over time. For level 4 drop chance got nerfed. This really only hits hyper rolling. For people that know, hyper rolling is not pressing the XP button until 3-1. And then spending all of your gold to roll down for 3-star 1 cost. This nerfs it by a little bit, and generally speaking, it looks like 1-star 3 costs are not super OP. There's a couple comps like Kha'Zix, when Void was really, really strong, it got removed. And Ziggs, when Rebels was really strong, still might be pretty strong. Where this would be a problem, but I think it's definitely no longer as strong as it previously was in the set when Poppy was Omega strong. Level 9 drop chance decreased. Oh wait, it's the 4 cost chance got decreased by 5%. From what I was told, this is because it was too easy to hold every single 4 cost on your bench, and then as soon as you get 6 or more of one, you could just 3-star it. You could choose a 3-star, and that was not something they liked as much, so they dropped it a little bit. It means if you're playing comps where hitting a 3-star 4 cost is really important, you don't go to 9, you just stay at 8. Kane will no longer drive with spatula item, 0 that trade on the board. Oh my god. This is great. So when you're playing Kane and you get a Star Guardian spatula when you're playing mech, that is really frustrating. So thank God this is something where I'll be a little bit happier about not getting terrible items. Nico's help will always work even if there's no more copies. The extra champ generated is extra, and when sold, the player is defeated, does not go back in the bag. This is really, really... I don't know how I feel about this. Even now. Right now, I feel like it should be an active skill of yours to be able to scout around the lobby and look to see who's going X so-and-so 3-star 4 cost carry. Because this really only affects like things like Jin 3, Jinx 3, where there's only 12 total units in the whole bag, and it's impossible for there to be more. And so what happens is if you just collect 3 of one unit or 4 of one unit, it's impossible for the other player to get a 3-star 4 cost of the same unit. I think actually I thought about this, and even before I said that this actually doesn't have that much impact in the game. It does punish people a little bit for playing better and scouting. And I understand that it's supposed to offset the frustration of not being able to do it. I think in general, I would have probably preferred for this not to be changed, but it won't matter except for in one specific situation, which is this. On this, hold up. Wait. Where is it? On this, here we go. This little legend, this new galaxy, the Nicoverse, you're always given 2 Nicos. And one of the strategies on this Nicoverse is to slam it on the first 5 costs you get, or try to 3-star a 4 cost. I think on Nicoverse, that is going to be a problem right here. You'll be able to force 3 stars even when before you couldn't. Aside from this situation, this is probably not going to come into effect as much as you would think. Moving on, trait adjustments. Blademaster now has a 15% more chance at four blades to chance for an extra 2 attacks. Personally, I played a lot of 6 blades, a decent amount, both on live, a little bit on PvE. I just think PvE blades suck, and the reason why is because they lost Kale. Backline AOE threat. You're left with what? Riven was the frontliner, he's typically skills better off AP than he does blade procs, and so even if there's a higher chance at proc it, I don't really see how you're supposed to be able to kill stuff fast enough before you get overwhelmed, because you have a lot of, like, I guess, bad units. It's probably only playable at 4 with a blade spat on a Jinx, and that's pretty much it. Brawler buff goes down by 50, pretty irrelevant. It's easier to get 4 Brawler now. 6 Celestials only attainable over Celestial Orb, makes sense. Celestial healing from damage goes up by 5% at 4 and 99%, which is up by 39% at 6. If you get 6 Celestial now without casting, you probably deserve this. Also, putting this in probably... it's cool. I like that you're able to go chase for this French thing, even though for the most part probably won't be that good for you. They added 8 Chrono, also probably not that good, but fun chase thing to go for. They adjusted 6 Cyber to add a little bit more AD instead of health. I think that this is going to be a really, really powerful synergy, because you can get 6 Cyber much easier when they added a new Cyber. Definitely be scared of 6 Cyber on live, I'd say. Darkstar breakpoints going down for 2, 4, and 6 is huge. Actually, really makes this a lot more splashable. And the biggest thing is that you now get their damage bonus when any ally dies rather than when another Darkstar dies. I think Riot's big learning thing about this set is that from set 2, there was a lot of splashable units. You were able to put in synergies here, synergies there. 2 Vanguard feels really good now because they buffed it tremendously. 2 Infiltrators now like resets the attack speed, so it's like a useful trait instead of a useless trait. And they've been slowly adjusting the traits to where like you can splash in like a little bit of the stuff here to feel better about your comp. I think that's super good. Darkstar used to be like pretty much worthless at 3, like not very useful because it only affected when other Darkstars died. Oh, sorry, and also 2 Chrono got buffed as well, right? So now that it's splashable at a 2, not even a 3, it's going to be very, very interesting, I would say. It's just a really nice thing to add to where you can splash in a little bit more and think about Darkstar units a little bit more rather than just ignoring the 3 Darkstar or the 2 Darkstar synergy. It's definitely something that's really good for the health of the game overall, even if the numbers are over or undertuned. Infiltrator went down by 5% early. It's probably irrelevant. Mystic went up by a lot. 4 Mystic is huge because they now added a new Mystic with Bard and Cassio, and they removed the one with Sona. So it's a lot easier to splash 4 Mystic if you're using it as a tech option against magic damage comps or against Janna comps, and you're giving a lot more value for the 2 Mystic and a lot of value for the 4. Protector spat now shields for 30, 40, 55. Thank God. So Protector on live, you never needed to go 4 Protector because the increase was 5%. It was terrible. On PvE, now that it actually is like 10%, that's like a decent amount, and then 15% more is a really, really, really nice amount as well. So thank God you're actually able to play one of the synergies, especially with the new war mods, which we'll touch under later down there, I'm guessing, for items. Sniper bonus got reduced to 10 damage, and they added 4 Sniper, which is 18% per hex. Probably just to balance out the Sniper units being really strong, because they added another 4 cost Sniper. They removed 8 Sorcerers, added this. They adjusted it by increasing the Force Work amount. I think Force Works is actually doing really well. In all my PvE games, Force Work 1 Victor seemed very strong, or Force Work, like just Star Guardian, seemed fairly strong. Star Guardians were bugged where it used to be after every cast, the next cast gave you half the amount of mana as a Star Guardian should. And no one caught it for the entirety of the first half of the set until like the 2 weeks prior to this patch, or 3 weeks prior to this patch, where someone in China released a video on it, which is crazy to me. So it was bugged for like ever, up until here. And so they're readjusting the strength of Star Guardian, which is going to feel a lot better after the first cast. They added new Star Guardian 9, which I'm not sure how viable this is, but I always like adding chase synergies. The Vanguard 4 goes up 50 armor, which is nice. 50 seems like a big, large, like kind of point, but remember, most abilities in the game do magic damage. So blocking a little bit more auto damage, probably not as relevant as you'd think. I had 6 Vanguard, again, I like chase, like very 6 and 9 and 8 synergies, so this is all cool. Might Mech Pilot adjustments. So ignore all this. Okay, there's a lot of numbers here. The only thing you need to know is that it's a little bit tankier. The mech armor goes up. The mech individual units are a lot stronger. And so what happens is when the mech pilots eject, they lose 65% of their health. Commonly, they die without ulting unless you have the items on them. So because of that, they were able to balance the mech pilot units being individually strong by themselves and the mech itself being strong without having to deal with that. So yeah, they ult a little bit easier, it's a little bit tankier, and attack speed went up. Additionally, the damage went up a little bit as well, especially early, from what I understand. Yeah, 400 to 700. And I don't know how strong mech is gonna be with the removal of like Kaisa and Demospat, but and they had to kind of adjust it around the fact that it lost one of its primary reasons why it was winning. But with the extra mech base damage, it's probably a really good sorcerer splash, because you do a lot of damage even with like level 1, 2, 3 mech. Does a ton of damage. Champion balance, cool. We talked about Annie, got enormous buffs. The damage went up by double, which is insane, and the shield went up by probably 20-30%. So Annie is a great unit. So what does buffing Annie mean? Currently on live, running Sorc opener is really bad. Like if you run Annie like Ahri Zoe, or Annie, it's like Ahri Zoe plus a frontline. That the only reason you can run it is because Ahri is a really great unit. If you don't have Ahri, Sorcs are not an option for you, period. Zoe's not a great unit, doesn't AoE, a really long cooldown, as a single target CC, doesn't scale till late game really. And so you're missing frontline, especially if you're running like 4 Sorcs, you're missing a strong frontliner that's not a Vanguard or a Brawler. By buffing Annie, it means that Sorc openers will be a lot more common, and she's really, really good at that. On PvE, I tested Annie with mech and without mech, and with 6 Sorcs, and without mech, Annie felt like a better unit. It's kind of crazy, actually. Tier 3 champions, Ashe mana went down at 25. That's a pretty good buff. Ashe damage went down as well. By a little bit. I'm surprised, but I guess you get your ulti off faster, which is the trade-off. The missile speed increase, which is also trade-off, so you can hit faster. Ezreal has better attack speed, better top-end mana. You shake 45 mana off, which means Ezreal almost always get the initial utility ulti off, but the ulti does a lot less damage. So it's essentially Shroud on the enemy team, or Mana Reaver on the entire enemy team. Jace health went up. I don't think this needed to happen, because I think Jace is a broken unit. But Jace will still be very, very strong. Nico is probably the worst unit on the current patch. I still think she's not very good unless you're running a 6 Star Guardian composition. And they ended up nerfing her a little bit, which is why I'm kind of surprised. Rumble got huge buffs. Remember, Rumble was a mech unit which main seals really weak. But if you look at its numbers now, like extra 100 health, extra 10 less mana, 250 more damage, and he applies a Morello debuff, the healing debuff. Super good. They buffed Shaco. I didn't even realize. Shaco is a much stronger unit now. It's someone that you'll be stacking if you're going, let's say, mid-game, any kind of mech infiltrators. You'll be looking to stack Shaco a little bit. You'll do a lot of damage. Wow. And they buffed his base AD. And it's to make up for the fact that they lost really strong Kaisa, and it got replaced with like kind of Zed and Nocturne, which they're not really great replacements. Zed's okay, but Nocturne seems a little bit, it's like a CC bot. So Shaco is much bigger threat as a mid-game infiltrator. Maybe even late-game infiltrator at 3-star too. Sigil mana got decreased by 5, and the damage got reduced, but now we'll pick additional targets if he overkills, which is probably better. The quality of life fix means that you'll never waste your ulti and overkill a target by too much, because the damage automatically splits onto something else. Fizz also gets buffed. 30 less starting mana, even though it costs 20, I think it's 10 mana less to cast, because it goes 80 to 20, 120 to 20, higher attack speed, more health. And the Chum the Water's damage is insane. His ulti damage, I see him being used in Sorcerer comps, because it's a massive AoE that kind of CCs as well. And his 3-star Fizz went into 5,000 instead of 2,000, which is kind of crazy. All the mech pilots are good. Individual units, something you want to consider to put in your comp, regardless not if you're looking to go mech. Jin also got nerfed level 1, but he's a much stronger 3-star now that he gets huge AS by 3. A little bit a little bit weaker 2-star, but he's 4 sniper now, which is probably the difference. Jinx, now this is one of the biggest nerfs ever. Jinx no longer fires rockets with extra shots of her blaster trait. So it used to be, if Jinx pops off twice, first pop off, on one kill assist she gets attack speed. Second one she gets rockets which do this amount of damage, right? Or this amount of damage. Now she no longer AoE shoots rockets to auto-delete the backline. It means that her like, it's like a humongous nerf to this champion. I've not played with her since this nerf has been announced, but this is definitely something where it's like pretty crazy how big it is. I think Jinx was just too dominant as a 4 cost at being able to snowball fights and being able to wipe teams. This is definitely an aggressive step toward adjusting her. I think it's probably a little too much. You probably need to adjust the actual rocket damage at 1 and 2 to compensate for this in later patches. She's probably gonna be a little bit weak at the moment. Aurelion Sol got changed to where, okay, ignore this attack. This literally does nothing. He automatically ults at the start. He does more additional damage per fighter. The fighters now drain mana. So he'll deal more damage to the first 10 seconds of the fight and then fall behind from there relative to patch 10.12, which is great, I think. Because at the end game, the most important time in the game is the first 10 seconds. And remember that him draining mana is also a really unique, something that no other thing can do. So before, you couldn't splash Echo or Aurelion Sol because unless you had Rebel or Infiltrator, or really like Echo or Cyber, because they just weren't useful by themselves. This doing more damage and draining mana is something that can be really relevant, especially against units like hard stacking one frontliner like GP. If Ace-Soul kind of makes him, you mana reave plus Ace-Soul, the frontliner, it just doesn't cast, right? It's really interesting take, I would say. Echo also got buffed 30 flat mana, so he's almost guaranteed to ult without a mana item. He does less chronobake damage, but he's guaranteed to hit 5 to 7 times, and he applies 7-second frozen hard debuff to everything he hits. And he can hit the same unit multiple times. This unit is kind of crazy. I think he is an extreme carry now. Don't look at these numbers and think he's bad. Before, he could only hit every unit once. Now, especially against units that he hits multiple times, he can just 2-shot or 3-shot the units. Applying Frozen Heart is incredible as a debuff, especially to stuff like Sniper, where like they just don't get to play the game. If you hit Jin with a 50% slow, or Jinx, it's incredibly annoying. If you ever had a unit, if you ever stacked Frozen Heart on a unit before, imagine doing that and guaranteeing the slow for 7 seconds on the whole board. So remember what I said about Ace-Soul being not splashable? Echo is now splashable as well. You just need like 2 infiltrators. Maybe you don't even need an infiltrator because he has so much more max mana. But he's definitely a unit that you can splash in, which is good for the game, right? You want to be able to use like a lot of units in a lot of different areas. Gameplay reduced the size of a larger area. This was necessary. On live version, if you ultied, GP was in the middle of the board and you ultied, you only dodge his ulti at the far left and far right corner. So if you were an RFC or you were a Sniper, that's it, or Xerath. Now you can actually position around it so he doesn't stun your entire board, which is definitely a lot better. And he got nerfed humongously on total starting mana. If you ever get reaved, or you get like A-sold, I think it's really hard for GP to go off immediately, which should help a lot in other team comps to be able to overpower this unit. Because this unit's like probably best in class on live at the moment. Tank changes. Overall, they're giving tanking units more base defenses, make them stand out a little bit more as frontline compared to other champions. So extra magic resist, extra armor, extra magic resist armor, Narvi, Wukong, Aurelion Soul. Cool, makes sense. Because there's a lot of damage in the game and they want tankiness to offset. Completely reasonable, cool. Items. Bloodthirster got buffed. Chalice got, by a small amount, doesn't matter. Chalice got redone. It's now AP Zeeks. It gives 30 AP to the left, right, and middle targets, which is good because Chalice is pretty much unusable and unbalanceable. Putting this in the game is probably great for like, it's like good for Sorcerer comps. It's at least a usable item for Sorcerer comps. Deathblade got reduced by 580 per stack. Probably correct because this is really unbalanced. Demo Spot got removed, which is great for the game. It was too abusable on specific units like Kaisa Asol, so it's not something that should have been in the game in the first place. This is probably the biggest change for items overall. It says it's the new Giant Slayer deals 20% bonus true damage if enemy max HP is over 1750, deals 80% bonus true damage instead. This affects not only your auto attacks but also your spells. So when you're playing comps like Sorcerer comps and you're playing Syndra and you're giving a lot of bows, you don't really have anything to do with bows. If you're playing 6-star Guardians, the only thing you can really make with bows is ZZ Rots. But if, let's say, you just don't want to make that many ZZ Rots, or you're given bows plus BFs, it's really hard to use this item sometimes in a lot of different comps. At the moment, Giant Slayer is the de facto like jack of all trades item. It's meant to beat up brawlers and beat up mech, but generally speaking, it's something that is turning into something you can slam on any unit just to have it deal more damage. Which, because it makes those two items more flexible on different comps, I think it's really nice. It means you no longer get stuck with dead items playing a comp that you have the units for, but not the items for. Gunblade now deals healing from just spell damage. Okay, they went to really differentiate the Thirster and the spell damage portion. The IE change is great. It does crit damage, 100% crit damage to 100% crit strike and 20% crit damage. So you can no longer stack it. So it doesn't have fringe abuse cases like 3 IE Aurelia or 2 IE Aurelia. And it guarantees that you get 100% crit chance. So you don't get feels bad moments like you're playing Aurelia with IE, and you're supposed to have like 65% crit, and you don't crit on your ulti twice, followed by a dodge. Like you don't. It's not consistent, and I think having 100% crit chance is just a quality of life change that overall feels better. It does, generally speaking, less damage from what I understand, but because it's more consistent, it feels better as a person playing it. Jewel Gauntlet, the holders cannot crit, and the spells crit and gain 20% crit bonus damage. The combination of the IE Gauntlet seemed pretty good, but remember it got nerfed tremendously it got nerfed a decent amount on live because you lose the crit damage bonus here and you gain a small amount of it here. Overall, from what I understand, it's a small damage loss, but again, it's still a good combination of items, these two. Yeah. Loons Echo. Star Scaling got removed, now deals 200 magic damage per bounce. Loons is great. I think it's because you can now use it on one star units early. It's a slammable item for sure. You find a Ziggs, you find a Lucian, anything with a low amount of mana. You find a Cassio. 200 damage per bounce is huge and will help carry you through the early mid game. And in the end game, it's just an AP plus mana item, which is very, very usable on a lot of different units. So definitely look to be building Loons Echo a lot more. It is way better than you think. Even on live, it's better than you think. I think on PB, which is now going to live, it's going to be a very, very good item. Rapid Fire Cannon now has the units autos cannot miss. It's nice to be able to have a small counter to dodge stacking. So if you're ever playing against a mech who's had 40% dodge, and you've been playing Jhin, if Jhin whiffs his 4th shot, you're pretty pissed. And so being able to kind of adjust around that is very, very nice. Red buff burn goes 25% damage burn over 10 seconds to 10% damage burn over 4 seconds. They just have to readjust red buff. I think red buff it's just the defining item of blasters right now, and it makes them too strong in the early mid game, and it's really hard to be able to nerf without it being just useless, both it and the blaster trait, because it's balanced around this item. They changed it up to where essentially, like, if you're not able to reapply it consistently, it's not going to affect the entire board at all points of the game, which is good because it does that right now. But it's still very, very strong. This is something you slam every single time with blasters. Blue buff got changed to where after casting a spell, set your mana to 20 unique. It no longer abuse cases where you can stack multiple ones on units with, let's say, 40 mana like Ziggs and cast infinitely. It's just... That's how you should think about it. It's balanced around. It's a unique item now, and you can no longer abuse it, which means that Riot can now put in units with 25 mana or up in the game without it being horrifically abused by blue buff users, or I guess double tier Seraph users. Which is good. Really good for the game. Similar to IE, nice thing to where you can balance the game easier. Warmogs now just adds 1,000 health. Warmog's components are 2 giant spells, which are 200 each, so it adds plus 600 health when you make it. It's very strong. On live, it doesn't feel that great. The regen doesn't feel good because a lot of times you're running into Morello or red buff players in the mid game, but 1,005 health is very, very strong and affects certain synergies like Protector tremendously. So if you're getting belts on live, and you sometimes getting belts and Negatrons feels kind of bad on live, but getting them now means you can kind of push yourself toward more of a defensive opener, especially toward Protectors, and you'll be able to kind of feel the difference. With 1,000 health and for the Protector buff, you're getting like 300 health shields. Even or 200 health shields on a Sins Out 1. Quote, bug fixes. Super Mech spell should no longer fizzle if the primary target dies, thank God. Aurelion still no longer gains mana from Starship Trait while Echo's ulting. Oh, wait, that's actually kind of... I thought that was the kind of soft counter to Echo. Okay. No longer spend mana while launching fighters at the beginning of the round. Killing spell no longer can be interruptible. Okay. Sniper Train longer increases. Okay, this is a big change from live. Hurricane was super OP on snipers. Now it will be a lot less good. Still probably okay because it allows your snipers to AoE, but just something to keep in mind. Fix a long-standing issue where combining a tier into a complete item will grant a unit extra mana. For people who don't know, if you have a tier on a unit and you complete the tier item on a unit in combat, it adds additional mana. It's called mana bugging, and it's been in the game since set 1, so they finally fixed it, so you can no longer do it. It was the difference between you getting your spell off quicker, and sometimes it lets you win a fight for free. Fix the bug where you only get 6 items for loot in extremely rare cases. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate for the person who this happened to. I think Kurum actually was the reason they fixed this. He recently got a 6 item loot example in one of his streams, and it was kind of unlucky for him, but he helped them find out the solution, which is great. Thank you for your sacrifice. Added some extra range cushion to Loons bounces to improve the item reliability. Okay, a little extra range on this item makes it even better than I originally thought. Fix the bug that allowed more shots, more than one shot to be equipped on a champion. Oh, cool. Mobile corner. I don't play mobile. Overall thoughts on this set. From kind of an overall point of view, I like that they removed Demo Spat. Was probably really abusive. Avoid, really hard to balance. The biggest thing is, and the thing that I care the most about, more items are usable on different comps, and useful on different comps. Stuff like Giant Slayer really helps in that regard. More units are splashable and usable, both early, mid, and late. Being able to use Annie Rumble early, very, very relevant. Being able to actually use Protectors, because they're not a viable late game synergy on live, but they are with a new Protector Urgot as well as the new Warmogs, helps out a lot. And yeah, those are the most important things. I think things like that are very important for the game. And I think they have a really good kind of grasp of what they missed in the first half of the set, and what they're looking to accomplish in this set or this mid set update. So I'm not talking numbers wise, because I think that maybe like stuff is overtuned or undertuned. Jinx I think might be undertuned. There might be situations where I think like I don't know, Victor is overtuned or stuff like that. Some of the new units potentially, but regardless of any of the numbers, I think just the fact that they are making units more splashable and synergies more splashable like Darkstar is good for the game. Very good for the game. That's a thumbs up for me. This patch will be dropping tomorrow, and I'll be playing more of it today on stream.